Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Nisha, and I'm the events manager at Larder. Woo! Yeah, thanks. Well, we just celebrated 14 years in business, so some whoops are appropriate. And I see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd, so thank you to everyone who has supported us over those 14 years. And we're just thrilled to be here celebrating authors in Seattle. So this evening, we're so honored to welcome back Dorie Greenspan, who has visited us so many times, I think we've lost count. We'll get to that in just a moment. But yes, if you've never visited us before, we're just down the block on Fremont Avenue, and we are all cookbooks and food writing. So please do come and see us. A little bit of housekeeping. So all of your books are already signed by Dorie. So if you do need to head out after the talk, you can do so. If you would like to have your book personalized by Dorie, you can wait in line and do that after the talk. We do have a little bit of a process for how that works. So if you stay in your seats after the Q&A, I'll be back to explain, because it's just a particular way we do it in this space. But hold on to the little colorful paper tags in your book, because that is the key to everything. So I will be back after the Q&A with some instructions. And like I said, we are so excited to welcome back James Beard Award winner and New York Times bestselling author Dorie Greenspan to celebrate her new book, Dorie's Anytime Cakes. She needs no introduction, but just for fun, she's the author of 15 cookbooks, including Baking with Dorie, Dorie's Cookies, Around My French Table, and many other classics, and has a Substack, XOXO Dorie newsletter, and she lives and bakes in New York City, Connecticut, and Paris. Lastly, before I turn it over, she will be in conversation with Nancy Leson, wonderful food writer and broadcaster, beloved by many. So we're delighted to have her here as well. And those of you who got cake with your ticket, the lucky ones who snagged a cake ticket, cake is being provided tonight by our friends Melissa and the team at Volunteer Park Cafe. So we're very happy to have them on board. Cake was pre-order only, so if you got one of those cake tickets, you should have a pink tag, and you will need to exchange that on the way out for your slice of cake. And this is Dorie's birthday week, so we had to have cake. I hope she won't mind me telling you that. Okay, well, so please silence your phones and join me in welcoming Dorie and Nancy.
I told Nancy I'm very emotional and I've been crying lately, and she said, "Oh, but you won't cry tonight, will you? But you almost made me cry." I'll be good. I promise.
I hope so.
Do you have lipstick on your teeth?
Do I? Do I have it on my teeth?
Yeah, now you do.
I do.
Sorry.
Do I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Top.
All
Sorry,
right.
I didn't see it in there.
Okay, good. And of course, the first thing I said, who does your hair? Where do you get it done? Paris. Well, everyone here likely has a Dorie story. I have two. So about a decade ago, I went to see an author speak at Larder. I think it was either Diane Jacob or Andrea Wynn. And at some point toward the end, they passed around these cookies. Now, I'm not a sweets person, but I grabbed the cookie and tasted it, and I went like, the angels sang, right? And I said, "What is this?" And they said, "It's Dorie Greenspan's World Peace Cookies." And that's become my go-to cookie. It's my favorite cookie. It's the cookie I most love to make. That's my first story. My second is this. It happened in 2016, so it was my husband Mac's birthday. Now, it's a day he shares with a certain someone, December 25th. Each year we invite friends over for our biggest shindig of the year. Mac usually makes gumbo. One year we made a big pastrami. But whatever we eat, there's always the annual after-dinner reading. Now, Mac always reads his beloved A Child's Christmas in Wales by Dylan Thomas. But this year, he said he reads it, he cries, usually twice, then we cry, then we laugh, and everyone's happy. But this particular year, 2016, he told us that he wanted to read something different. And he pulled out a copy of Savoir magazine and read a story where the headline was How Dorie Greenspan Does New Year's Eve in Paris. Its subhead said, every December 31st, the dessert wizard invites a hodgepodge group of old and new friends for a perfect French fete, complete with oysters, gougere, and huge bottles of champagne by the same. And I want you to tell us a little bit about that bottle and what happens with it.
Well, so...
Do you remember?
Oh, I do remember. Yeah, I do remember. So just like stop me because I remember a lot about this actually. When I was in graduate school, which is lots and lots of years ago, I had a classmate whose husband was transferred to Paris, and she went reluctantly. Yeah, silly woman. And the first holiday that she was there, she sent a picture of the Pont Alexandre III, which is like all gold, gilded. She said, we went out on New Year's Eve, we had champagne and oysters on the bridge, and we threw the shells into the Seine. And I thought, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. That's going to be my life one day. And so the first year that we were in Paris, we went to the Pont des Arts, which is the pedestrian bridge that was near us, and had oysters and champagne on the bridge. And we've done that every year until the little grandkids came and didn't want oysters and champagne. But yes, we do that. And one year we had a Balthazar of champagne, which is like probably as tall as you without your boots. And we brought
a Balthazar holds 80 glasses of champagne. Think about that.
Took us 45 minutes to open it. Yeah. Yep. And we carried it out, several people carried it out, and poured champagne on the bridge for not everyone who was there, but as people came by. New Year's Eve in Paris is really special. Where is Max?
Oh, Mac,
where are
you want to stand up there, embarrassing my husband? Hello.
Okay. I love that you did that.
Well, not only did he do it, every Christmas, birthday, soiree we have had after, he wants magnums of champagne. He hasn't quite made it up to
Good man.
So there you go. And we all love that. So before you started writing your own books, you co-wrote books with iconic chefs, with Pierre Hermé, Daniel Boulud, and of course, Julia Child. It seems that everyone who knew Julia has a very funny story about her. Everybody I've talked to who knows her tells me a funny story. And I bet you have at least 12, but which one would you share with us?
Oh, you're right. I have to think of which one. Well, there's this story of Christmas. We'll stay with Christmas.
Okay.
Michael, my husband, our son Joshua, and Julia loved cats. And we found a trompe-l'oeil cat that stood like this, and it was beautiful. And we sent it to her for Christmas. And this was in the days of answering machines. And we came home from dinner one night, and I see that it's beeping, and I press the button, and the voice says, Dorie, Michael, Joshua, this is Julia. Julia Child. Like who? I mean, this is a woman I spoke to every morning for years, right? Julia, she said, I think that I should always give you my last name, and you should do the same thing. We should always introduce ourselves with full names. She said, you know, I got an umbrella from Sam and Sally for Christmas. Do you know who Sam and Sally? I don't know who they are. She said, this is Julia Child wishing you a Merry Christmas.
I like that one. So was there a moment in time, a significant memory in which you realized, hey, I am an icon?
No. No. But, I'm hoping to live a few more years, so maybe I'll have that moment.
You will, yeah.
What a question.
Yeah, no, what do you mean? I mean, come on, isn't she?
Yeah.
Like, come on. That's nuts. And I'm just asking for all of us here in, this backwater of Seattle, that I like to imagine you and Ina Garten, or Ina, as we know her, and David Leibovitz and Patricia Wells sipping rosé while lunching together in Paris. Do the expat famous American cooks hang out together in Paris?
There's a great expat food community, and lots of younger expats now. So I have had dinner with Ina, but we are not regular. Patricia's been a friend for a lot of years. David Leibovitz, yeah, they do.
Okay.
And,
All right.
Yeah, rosé.
Rosé?
Yeah.
Oh, always, year-round, by the way. And I forgot something. We have time. I only have X amount of minutes here. And I brought with me something that every baker should own, I think. And this is the 3-timer. So normally I would just look and someone would give me a big, hey, get going here, because we have books to sign. My husband said that this sound of this going off should be my phone timer thing. Like when I call people, that's the sound that should go off. All right, start. When that goes off, it's time to take the cake out of the oven. Okay? All right. So I would like you to read an excerpt here.
I didn't know what I was getting into when
It's from an article dated April 2020 from the New York Times. You wrote it. This is you. And I just love this, and I want you to read it before we go any farther, okay? You got it? With feeling, please.
Wait, I wrote this?
Yes, you wrote it. Your name was on it, sister.
I as Nora Ephron famously said, I remember nothing.
And she also said, I feel bad about my neck, and I do too, and that's why I'm wearing this.
I'll match you. Okay. When I started cooking, I would spend hours during the week thinking about what I wanted to make over the weekend, and then I would spend the weekend making it. Every Saturday, this is actually true. But I don't remember it. Every Saturday, I shopped along a stretch of 9th Avenue around the Port Authority bus terminal in Manhattan. I think the copy editor added in Manhattan.
Right.
Yeah. Around the Port Authority bus terminal in Manhattan. In those years, it wasn't the best part of town, but to me, an adventurous fledgling cook, the small shops were as thrilling as a grand bazaar. There was a spice shop where I could buy saffron by the pinch. I remember that, for paella and risotto. A store where I bought handmade phyllo to make spanakopita and baklava. There was a fishmonger who sold everything that went into a bouillabaisse, including an assortment of heads and bones to make the broth, and a butcher who learned about charcuterie in France after the war. He made pâtés like the ones I saw in Gourmet magazine, and had duck confit and sausages for cassoulet. I bought the classic beans, creamy white ones from Tarbes, at a market opposite the terminal. That's also where I got the rice for the risotto.
Okay, now you're looking at me like, why did you want me to read that? Right?
Yeah.
Because I want to ask you this. In the course of writing many columns for newspapers and magazines, plus 15 cookbooks over 3+ decades, what's changed for you in how you cook, in the flavors and techniques you favor, and in how you think about food in general? Like, that's a long time to be cooking professionally so that you're telling people how to. So, what's changed for you?
You could have sent these questions to me beforehand.
All right, I'll get to the easier ones in a minute.
Thank you.
I promise.
I think what's changed, I think a lot has stayed the same. My curiosity about food has stayed the same. My excitement when I find something new, my true excitement when something works. But I think over the years, the way I cook, and certainly the way I bake, has become simpler, less complicated. I think when I started, well, I know when I started to cook, so I didn't cook until I got married, but I got married when I was 19 and I was a student, so I had a lot of time. We had no money, but I had time. And I just wanted to make the most complicated dishes imaginable because I thought I was learning, and I was learning something each time I made it, and I wanted to make really complicated cakes and pastries. Now all I want is simple, completely delicious food that you share with people, that the food becomes part of the conversation, not because we're talking about the food, but because it makes people feel comfortable and welcome and wanting to stay and to talk. So simpler.
Yeah. It's funny, I have long felt, after years of reviewing restaurants and dining out a lot at like all the newest and the best places and fancy joints, that the places I love the most now when I'm doing it for myself are the simplest places, the places that have the most basic, delicious, gorgeous piece of chicken or a nice steak or whatever, right?
I think so. Do we have simple people here?
Simple people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
When you're not out promoting the cookbooks, what's a work day look like? Do you sit down and map out recipes? No? What's a work day look like?
So yesterday, somebody taught me an expression I'd never heard before. She said there are writers who, oh, hi, Jess.
Oh, hi, Jess.
There are people who sit down, they're very organized. I forgot what their names are, what you call them, because I'm not one of them. And then the other people who just kind of work the way I work, which is mostly on whim, are called pantsers. Do you know that expression?
No, but I'm going to use it from here.
Right?
You're by the seat of your pants.
Right, pantsers.
Pantsers.
So I'm a pantser, but I'm also a whim worker. So I'm very lucky because my desk is in the kitchen, and so I'll sit down and I'll be writing, and I might think of something and I can jump up and make it. And I tried. I think because of my hair, I look like I'm very neat and organized, but I'm a pantser. So I don't. I've written 15,
because of my hair.
I've written 15 books, and only one had a really good outline that I could follow. I kind of like work and work and work and then think, oh, I think I baked a book. I really don't, So I don't know what a typical day, but I have friends, and you probably do, or maybe you're like that, who get up and they start working at 7 o'clock in the morning, they write until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's their day. And they do it every day. Do you?
Oh, no, but when I was working full time, I definitely knew that I had to wake up, or if I woke up early and wrote, I was only good till about noon. I can't.
Yeah,
After that, I'm done. You have to start scrolling through the email right about then, right?
Yeah, I'm a morning worker.
So I believe that Tuesdays with Dorie community was one of the first Cook the Book communal online groups, right? Something like when that started up. First, can you tell people what that was?
So it was my book, Baking from My Home to Yours, came out in 2006. And about Christmas time, I got a handwritten letter. How did she find me? I got a letter from a woman named Lori Woodward who lived in Pittsburgh, and she said, I just got your book for Christmas, and I want to bake through it with two of my friends, and we have blogs, and we're going to write about the recipes. Is that okay with you? I thought it was nice of her to ask. I called my agent and I called my editor and I said, 3 people, now it sounds funny, 3 people are going to be baking from my book. At least I knew like 3 copies had been bought. And I said, is that okay? And they said, sure. And that was the start of Tuesdays with Dorie. My agent represents Mitch Albom, who wrote Tuesdays with Maury. And he said, I'm not so sure I like the name. But
that's really funny to me that they wanted to call it Tuesdays with Dorie?
Yes.
And your agent is Mitch Albom's agent? That's just too much.
So Tuesdays with Dorie started then, and this book came out yesterday. Books in America are published on Tuesdays. And the Tuesdays with Dorie group baked the book is so new I can't remember the names of everything, but I think it's the Cocoa Swirl Pumpkin Bunt. So now how many years is that?
A lot.
25 minus 7 years. 18.
Yeah.
18 years that they've been doing this.
That's amazing. So when that first started up, did you pay close attention to it?
Yeah, I could, but I'm old, and I started doing everything before the internet. I'm not right.
Yeah,
so
I'm with you.
The first time I saw one of my recipes made by someone, on a screen, I was dumbfounded, and so I did cry. I called my husband in. I said, I was in my little office, and I said, you've got to see this. You've got to see this. I'm still surprised by it.
Huh. So how did you learn to relate to an online audience? Because as you said, this wasn't something you did before. No, we didn't used to do this. There didn't used to be online.
There didn't used to be online. I think because I was so touched, I'm not a politician. I make cookies. So people are nice. Cookies, cakes attract nice people. Hello, nice people. And so true? I was very touched by the community. I was flattered that anybody wanted to spend the time to do this. And I loved having people to talk to about baking.
Yeah. And now you have a newsletter that has, wait for it, 88,000 subscribers, according to Substack.
Yeah.
That's not chopped liver.
Not chopped liver. Mm-mm. And I never wrote about chopped liver.
No.
Not once.
Not one time. But when does a newsletter entry become a cookbook idea, like for you?
That's never happened.
No?
Yet.
Yet.
Right. Ideas, you've written for so many years, and I see writers out here. Does anybody know when an idea comes?
I know I have ideas that rattle around in my head for years till I finally get around to them.
Yeah,
Same.
But you also, I think, so may I say how this came about?
I wish you would.
Or is that like question 53?
No, that's down there. They're down there.
That's okay.
Let me ask
Do you want me to wait? I'll wait.
Yeah, a couple more questions, and then you can go.
Okay.
All right. Do you have I follow your Instagram. Do you have help with social media? Like, do you have people?
Do I have people? So, yes and no. I didn't have anyone for 1 trillion years, so I did everything myself. And then Mary Dodd is my recipe tester, and she started testing recipes for me in 2011, but she doesn't do social media. And when I started writing a newsletter, I did everything wrong, technically. I was always pressing the wrong button and surprised that the newsletter was published when I didn't want it, or it was the draft that went out. So I have help in formatting and sending the newsletter out. And the posts that I publish on Tuesdays. My Tuesday Instagram posts, Antonella helps me with those because she's got to pull the pictures from the newsletter, and I don't know how to do that.
Yes.
So that's it.
Okay. So one of the many things I love about your cookbooks is seeing your face on the spine. Okay, I have, and you can all go, get out of here. I have 1,500 cookbooks in my home office. And not a single, I went in there and I went like this. And my home office books, they're not like Book Larder, they're not faced out. their spines. And I look, and around the circle, not a one.
Is that
So
true?
That is true. So all your books, have you ever noticed this? Look.
What?
All of her books have her face on the spine. Now, how did that come about? And then you can tell me how this came about.
So I had written, I don't know how many books, before I wrote Baking from My Home to Yours. And I had an amazing editor, Rux Martin. And Rux said, I think we should put your picture on the spine. So there was talk about putting me on the cover, and I begged them not to. And I have never been on the cover, and I think cakes are nicer. She said, but we really should put your picture somewhere. Let's put it on the spine. And once she did it, it became the thing. But I had no idea that was singular.
I want you to go into a huge bookstore.
I could go to my
store.
1,500 books and look.
You can, look. And I'm going to, and when you find one, if you find one, take a picture and send it to me.
I will.
Okay, good.
If I find one.
In your introduction to your new book, Dorie's Anytime Cakes, you write, my first and most enduring love is for simple cakes. What makes a cake simple, and tell me how this book came about.
So I think writing this book felt different from the 14 that came before, and I was surprised by it. The book, I'll tell you how the book came about. I was asked to write a story for the New York Times for their holiday issue, their holiday on and on issue. And they said, would you come up with 3 holiday cakes? And I said, I don't think I can do it. I said, for me, what I hear when you say holiday cake is something very festive and something frosted and something really like showstopper, centerpiece, bring it out when, the entire family's around the table. I said, I don't bake like that. I said, but I think you could have a holiday cake that doesn't go to the dining room. You could have a cake that sits in the kitchen and that people can nibble on it while they're preparing the holiday meal, or when they're a weekend, the family's there for the weekend. Kind of cake that somebody called it a cutting cake. You just keep cutting it or evening it out. And I said, a kitchen cake. And I had not thought about this at all. This was just a reaction to, I didn't want to do the story. And they said yes. And so I did 3 cakes for them, what became the cover cake, the holiday bunt, the baked in a skillet gingerbread, and a savory cake that has a long title in the book, something like maybe this, maybe that, ham and cheese loaf. Cake, I think. And as I was working on these 3 recipes, I thought, I love these cakes. These are the cakes that I really love. I think, and when you're working on something and you have that what if, so you're adding the cardamom and you think, well, what if I added just like little pieces of ginger? Or when you're doing the ham and cheese loaf, you think, what if I did it as muffins? What if I did it with hot pepper? What if I did? And the what ifs kept coming, and I thought, I want to write a book about this. And as I started to work on the book, because I'm a pantser, I'm going to use this word.
I'm going to use that word.
Right, I know. Because I'm a pantser, I kept having, I hadn't planned this, but I started thinking about that cake from my childhood, or that cake that a friend made, or a cake that I had somewhere. And this became a kind of memory book that I didn't know it was going to be. It wasn't at all what I set out to do. And in some ways, maybe this was the book that I was building up to write.
Yeah, I've made several. I got an early copy. I made several cakes out of it already. One was, I think it's the first cake in there, the BFF chocolate brownie cake. It was so simple and so delicious.
Thank you.
And then I made the honey cake because as a child, I always remember having honey cake at Passover. It was always this really dense thing. Yours was delicious. It wasn't anything like the one I grew up eating, but that cake was a family-ish recipe, or a recipe, right?
Ish. So my mother didn't cook, and she didn't. I always think if she didn't cook, of course she didn't bake. She didn't bake. She had a sweet tooth, she had good taste, and she bought cakes all the time from the bakery. And so there was always cake in the house. Every Friday, my grandmother would come, afraid that we had not been properly fed all week. And she would bring these huge shopping bags that had jars. Now that I'm older, I think back, where did she get so many jars? Where did she get shoe boxes?
She saved them for 25 years.
She
What do you
wore
mean?
one pair of shoes, those lace-up black things. And she had apple cake in the shoe box, and she brought cookies, and she brought a honey cake. And my mother never liked the cake, but loved the almonds that were in a line across the top of the cake. And so Grandma would bring the cake. My mother would, she would bring, and the chicken, and the noodle. But it was the cake. She would open the cake, one by one, take the almonds off, eat them. I never saw a honey cake that didn't have those little holes in them. And I had tried, I think maybe we all have this, recipes that we remember that we can never really recreate. And my friend Ellen sent me this recipe for the honey cake that's in the book. And I made it, and I thought, I have no idea if this is my grandmother's honey cake. I mean, I tasted it 60 years ago. But it felt like it, and it smelled like it, and I thought, okay, it's maybe not my grandmother's honey cake, but it could be a lot of people's grandmothers. And so I ended up calling it grandmother's apostrophe honey cake.
Right. That's everybody's grandmother's.
Everybody's grandmother.
Yeah.
But when she gave me the recipe, Ellen lives in Nashville, and she said, you can use cola. And I thought, my grandmother?
Would she roll over in her grave?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciated that you wanted to make these anytime cakes doable without a stand mixer. And I love that you say that in the book.
Yeah, not all.
Not all. I
yeah.
was wondering, did you have to restrict or leave out some recipes or otherwise that you might have put in because they couldn't be as well prepared without a mixer?
So these cakes, if they're made by hand, I made them by hand because I could. So I didn't take a recipe that I knew needed a stand mixer and think, or a hand mixer, and think, okay, can I make it by hand? It was kind of just a natural.
So really, I only asked you that question so that I could fetch about mixers, and I wanted
Take it.
Okay, thank you. So I am from the school that I'm still sorry. I had one of the first newer artisan stand mixers. It was cobalt blue, and it was solid state. It was just great. I had it for 30 years. It broke, and I got rid of it and bought a new one, and I hated my new one. And then I sent that. I thought, well, I'm going to get the bigger one because it just didn't work well, the bigger one. So I brought it back, and I got the Devil I Knew, and that was every bit as bad. And so over the years, what I have done is I have seeked out and bought, and I have many, vintage KitchenAid mixers because they work better.
I
So
have one
want you
from
to talk about this.
1974.
1974?
Yep, I got that stand mixer. It's in it. The cord is very ugly, but it's never been touched by a repair person. It's been perfect. I got that mixer and my first Made a Heater cookbook at the same time.
Right. Oh, which brings me to a question that I just is this. I love doing the idea of doing a gift basket for people who love to cook. Okay, so I did this once for a friend who I knew she loved soups, so I did, peas and lentils and a can of tomatoes and a soup cookbook, Crescent Dragon Wagons.
Yeah.
And so my question to you is if you were going to put together a gift basket, and you guys, this is just such a great idea, especially for people like you who clearly cook or bake or love to look at cookbooks. You'd put one of your cookbooks in it, and what else would go in it? Do you know what I'm asking?
I know what you're asking. I've never thought about it, but then I hadn't thought about most of your questions.
Okay. Well, I figured you answer the same 12 questions all the time. I wanted to give you something to think about. So, you'd put in one of your cookbooks. Which one would it be? If it was somebody's first Dorie cookbook, which would it be?
If the basket were really sturdy, I would put in Baking from My Home to Yours.
Okay.
I say that because I think of it as the most complete and would give a beginner baker a lot of choices.
Some ingredients would have to go in that basket. Classic ingredients for stuff that you want people to bake. What would I put in? So I would love to put good chocolate. Mm-hmm. Baking chocolate?
Like Valrhona or Guitar, something that would really be splurgy, delicious chocolate. Can I put tools in there, or you want ingredients?
No, you definitely, I would ask you that.
Okay.
I have an idea.
Do you want to put a timer in? But wait, how many of you are wearing smart watches? Yeah, do you use them for a timer? That's the only thing I use my watch for.
Well, I do. Alexa, turn a timer on for 20 minutes. But I'm not good at. But this I can have 3 different timers. That's why I love
so
this
I'm like a belt and suspenders person. So I ask Siri to set the timer, and then I set one like that.
Yeah, because you don't trust her.
Sometimes she could be out to lunch. But no, I would want to have a whisk. There's a spatula that I love. I would put the spatula in there. Would I put a beautiful bun pan in? Yeah. Oh, this is really it's a big basket. It's a big basket. It needs somebody to carry it. What do you put in your cook basket?
Well, I did a bread basket. Once a young friend of mine loved my dinner rolls that I always made for the Christmas Eve at her house, and it was a big old thing. She would always help me make them starting when she was young, and when she became a married woman. One year for Christmas, I got her a big basket, and I put some good flour in it.
I was wondering if we should add flour.
Good flour. There was a bread book. There was my recipe for the rolls, handwritten, of course. And there was like baking soda or baking powder. I can't remember, little things like that.
So we could spend the rest of the night thinking about this. Because I'm thinking I would want to put maybe like a little notebook, because I'm a pencil and paper person. And I have a favorite pencil. Okay, I'll see you later. I'm just going to go off and think about it.
So what about head notes? Head notes, the little paragraph atop a recipe, are my favorite part of cookbooks.
Mine too.
And your head notes are so personal. Assuming you agree with me, you just did. I'd like to hear why you think head notes are important, and why you should read them if you don't already.
So I think food tastes better in context. I think when you're given a story, when you know something about the background, whether it's the origin of the recipe or something about a particular ingredient, I think a head note should place a recipe, but it should also give information, because I think you want to know ahead of time what you're getting. So my first editor said you have to talk about taste, texture, and she might have said temperature, but I'm not sure. But and so that you have to tell people kind of what they're getting. It shouldn't be a surprise. So you need some information. Paula Wolford used to say that you need to romance a recipe. And my first editor, when I wrote my first magazine piece, it was for Food and Wine, said to me, "Can you give me 150 words of, give me a paragraph, 150 words, drool prose." I don't actually want to do that. I want to place a recipe, though. I want to tell a story, and I'm really grateful to my editors that they give me enough room to tell a story. Yeah.
So, reading your books, I often come across the word play. You consistently encourage readers to play with a recipe. Your sidebars in the new book and others are headed playing around. While you might be preaching to the choir here, I'd like to give you a moment to speak to the fact that for you, cooking and baking is not a chore, it's a joy, it's a playful game. Can you riff on that about playing in the kitchen?
I don't think I could have written my first book, and I certainly couldn't have written 15 books if I didn't play, if it weren't fun, if I didn't have the chance also to crack myself up.
Did you just say if you didn't have the chance to crack yourself up, you couldn't do this?
Well, I mean, a girl's got to have some fun. So, right. So,
Agreed.
I'm alone all day in my kitchen. So, if you were to pass me, you might find me at my screen, kind of, like squeezing a lemon or frosting something as I try and find the right way to describe an action. It's got to be, and when you're in the kitchen and you're working on something, again, I come back to this what if. It's the fun of making something, of actually creating something. I had a low period last month, and I wasn't writing, and I said tons of stuff that took me away from my daily life. And I said to my husband, I feel off balance. I haven't made anything. I haven't made words. I haven't made food, and I really missed it. For me, that's just a part of daily life, to be able to be in the kitchen and mix things up.
Yeah. Well, my timer was just getting ready to go off, so I have one more question before we take questions from you folks, and it's this. So, your grandmother,
Yeah.
celebrating your 78th birthday this week.
Yep.
Your husband's retired, but you're working like a 40-year-old. What do you think about this era of your life? Do you want anything different for yourself now than you did, say, like 20 years ago?
Wow. 20 years ago, I don't think I could have imagined this moment. I certainly couldn't have imagined it 30 years ago. What do my husband stopped working. He sold his business about 15 years ago. And I said, and what will you do next? And he said, I don't want to do anything. And he does plenty, but he doesn't work. I can't imagine not doing what I do. I can't imagine not cooking and baking. I can't imagine not writing. I don't know. I don't know. I want more time with the kids.
And by the kids, you're talking about?
Well, I love my son, and I love Lindling, my daughter-in-law. But yeah, now the kids are Gemma and Vivi, ages 5 and 3. Yeah, I want more time with them. But is it so selfish to want to keep working when I've got those kids? Am I,
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Plus, who wouldn't want a grandmother whose job is to bake cakes? Come on, right? Okay, let's open it up to questions then. Let's see here. Please.
Oh, so it's. I think the company is called Tovolo. Yeah, and it's a very slender spatula, very flexible at the top, almost a spoonula. It's got a little curve, and I find it's great for scraping the paddle, and really, it's terrific for folding. Yeah, that's my favorite spatula. It'll be in your basket.
There you go. And thank you for asking that, because I almost asked it, but I didn't, because I knew I was then going to say, mine is I got this at like a a giveaway thing about 8 years ago. It's Jacques Pepin designed it. It came from Sur La Table, and it had his design on it. And I didn't use it for years. It was just stuck in the utensil thing. It's amazing.
That guy knows something about food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's 90, so you're a spring chicken next to him. He's still doing the voodoo that he does. But God, please, what is your favorite pencil?
Oh, do you know Blackwing pencils? Yeah, favorite.
You. What advice would you give someone who wants to write a cookbook?
No, I was actually going to say do it. It's hard work. It's a lot. I mean, I love book work because I love having something on my desk that I can keep, that's there in the morning that you can keep working on, as opposed to, a column but it's hard. Set aside some time. Know that you. So when I called my agent and I said, I want to write a book about simple cakes, he said, take a week and call me back. He said, think about, do you really want to do it? It's a big commitment. But if you find yourself wanting it, if you find yourself like writing work on it. Study other people's books, look at what they're doing, find what you feel most comfortable with, that you can work on happily over the long stretch.
Yes.
The question was, where have I eaten in Seattle? And there's many people are suggesting that you refrigerate cookie dough. Do I think that's a good idea, and should you do it for all cookies? I flew into Seattle today, and I'm with you now, and I'm flying back tomorrow morning. Yeah, I had a grilled cheese sandwich from Dahlia Bakery. It was good. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. And you have something for tonight if you don't go anywhere.
I have bagels that Nancy baked. Yeah, they're beautiful.
Who else do we have?
Right.
I'm sorry, the cookie
cookies,
question.
Yeah. So I don't think all cookie dough has to be refrigerated. Some of you, if we've been together before here, may know that I took science for poets in college. So there's a whole science about the hydration, and somebody's coming out with a book, Ella Keatner, and she's taken cookie dough and she's made it, like chocolate chip cookie dough, and she's baked it immediately. Then she baked it 2 hours, after 2 hours of refrigeration. Then after blah, 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 to 72 hours. And each cookie looks different in the way that it holds its shape and the texture. I don't know. I mean, I refrigerate cookie dough, chocolate chip cookie dough, if I don't need it right away. I refrigerate sablé shortbread dough because it holds better and cuts better if it's, a slice and bake.
And how long? That's the question, especially for the sablé. How long would you keep it in the fridge as opposed to putting it in the freezer?
Well, I usually go into the freezer pretty quickly, yeah. But I don't know. Do you know? I mean, I thought maybe you didn't ask me no, okay.
Yes.
How often do I bake? Oh, okay, and what do I do with all of the cakes? So I'm pretty much, I was a daily baker. I'd say, and I'm not baking for the next 2 months as I'm traveling around. That's not true. The kids are coming. But I bake a lot. And I practice, I once said I was going to have a T-shirt made. I practice what I call bacon release. So I give cakes to neighbors, and if you lived on my street, you might open your mailbox one day and find cake in it. Yeah.
You could put a little free bakery in front of your house. It'd be very popular. Yeah. Yes, please.
What do I make with my grandchildren? Okay. So what was that first question? The grandchildren. How could I forget them? So we we make breakfast together. So if they're staying over, we do pancakes that we cut into cute little shapes. We do waffles on a heart-shaped waffle. They're girls. They're so girls. They want, like, can you make the batter pink?
And you can.
And you can,
You
right?
can,
Yeah. And we make waffles. We make cookies. Mostly we make cupcakes. And one day, and it's the picture that's on my phone, we made apple galettes. So we made the dough together, and they rolled it out, and then I kind of evened it out a little bit. And then they put the apples on, and they pleated the dough. I think that was our best project, actually. That was really great. And we'll bake more. So for the holidays, we'll bake cookies for their classmates. They go to a school that allows home-baked things as long as it doesn't have nuts. But for the gluten-free, there's a woman sitting right behind you who knows Aaron.
Aaron, do you have one of your books in your hand?
Okay, I've used the one-for-one kinds of, right, but I am not an expert. I bake with the like cup for cup or the King Arthur flour when I know that somebody's coming to the house who needs a gluten-free. I don't know, but you might chat after hours. Yeah, she's your girl.
Okay. Yes?
And I think that when you're first starting out, you should really look at look at what's in the field. Look, I say that, and then just as those words came out of my mouth, I also have said to starting writers, don't be discouraged by the fact that Nancy has 1,500 cookbooks and that yours may be a cookie book like, 500 that she has. You're you. You're going to bring your own perspective to something. You've got a voice that's your own. But I do think you want to see what other people are doing so that you know what the field looks like. You want to see, I look at books, I have a collection like Nancy's, only mine is not face out. It's like stacked, it's crooked, it's a little,
but mine's not face out. Book orders.
No, I know. But mine is like messy. But you want to know the field. You want to be familiar with what people are doing. You want to look at designs that books have, and then you want to do what you really care about. I hate when people say, "Oh, follow your passion," because that's really hard. It's hard to do. But you really have to make a commitment to doing if you want to make a cookbook, and so it should be what you really care about.
But was I wrong in thinking you were just curious about who she reads? So this isn't secondary to this, what she wanted, and I wanted to know this too. So who are the books that you turn to? We know we turn to you, but who do you turn to? Not necessarily for baking, but for perhaps baking and other things.
So I grew up on what I think of as the classics. Right? I came of culinary age when Marcella Hazan's books were coming up. Patricia Wells, Paula Wolfert, Julia, of course, though I never told Julia. So I worked with Julia, and she became a friend. I never told her that I never cooked from her books. Now I find myself interested in so
you like a lot of Asian flavors, yes.
Yeah, Asian food really interests me. I love Betty Liu's book, My Shanghai. I like Chinese Enough and the Mooncakes book, Joanne Chang's Myers and Chang. Those are books that I cook from all the time. Those are the books that are in my kitchen that I grab. I love the New York Times weeknights cookbook that just came out, and Hot Sheet. So it's an eclectic mix. But I always, I find it a comfort to look up, this sounds silly, I know, to look up on my shelf and see Made Heater there. To see Paula Wolford, to know, I feel like those are our godmothers.
That's right. And it's I can't even imagine having as many cookbooks as you have that are still in print and so much enjoyed by people like us that even long after you're gone, we will be, if you beat me to it, we will be looking, and our children will be looking at your cookbooks. And I hope that makes you feel, and your grandchildren will have your cookbooks.
You promised me you wouldn't make me cry. You promised me. Are you done?
I am. Oh. It's the truth. We have time for how many more questions? Let me ask my book. 2? There was someone here. Yes, sir.
Once I catch my breath and open my eyes really wide to make the tears go back in, you really did me in.
That's why they pay me the big cookbook bucks.
Preheat your oven. No, but seriously, preheat your oven. I had a oven repairman come and say, how long do you preheat your oven for? And I said, well, when that thing goes ding, he said no. He said, keep it going for another 15 or 20 minutes. You really want to heat the whole chamber. And particularly if you're making something like cookies that just go in the oven for 10 minutes or so. So you heat it, you open the oven, or this way, and this is the way it opens in Paris. And heat comes out, and then you put, right, so really preheat your oven.
Yes, back there. That's correct. Good for you. Because I'm up here with her, and I've been looking at that book for 2 weeks, and I only just learned that those are illustrations. They are not photographs.
Yes. Yeah. So the book is illustrated by Nancy Pappas. I met her at a Cherry Bomb Jubilee in 2019. We just figured that out. And I loved her, and I loved her work. And I said, one day, if I ever had a project that was right for illustration, I would want to work with you. And when I knew I was going to be writing this book, I knew the cakes were going to be really plain. And I wanted something that would not, I didn't want props. I didn't want pretty little flowers, and which would have made the cakes, perhaps would have made the cakes prettier, but I thought would take away from the fact that they're simple, that that the ingredients are really the beauty in the cakes, that brown is beautiful, that the texture of a cake is beautiful, that it doesn't necessarily need frosting to be appealing. And so I wanted a very bold, graphic look, and was shocked when the publisher said yes. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's really something. There was one more hand up, and I can take one more question. Yes, ma'am.
Help me.
I think it's that story from when you were a kid.
Wait, which one?
When you burnt down the kitchen.
Oh, that one?
I think so.
Okay, I couldn't really hear the question, but if you're asking
a recipe that just you really failed, right? Like what was one that you can think of that was the Titanic of failures for you over time?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did burn down my parents' kitchen making French fries. Well, I never made them, actually. The fire came before the fries. I did last year, I think, I was interviewed by Michelle Norris, whom I adore, for her podcast, Your Mama's Kitchen. And she knew about the fries because she knew about the fries. And she said, would I make French fries for her podcast? And so I now can make French fries, but that's like, what, 65 years later?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for coming, and
Yes.
Dorie will be, I think, doing some personalizing?
Yeah.
Yes. And there's be some cake, but let's give a hand to our wonderful Dorie.
Wait.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Dorie.